Hello my loves, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. Hi, hello, my name is Loey, and I have a bit of a rambly intro for you before we get into today's scary stories. Number one is I was trying to set up my new camera like for an hour, and I just need to work on some lighting things before I switch over to it. So if you guys have thought my quality has been banging here recently, it's about to get crazy. So I was trying to set that up, and I honestly was like taking my time because I didn't really know what to film today, but I knew that one of the last videos that I filmed that I had a lot of fun filming, and I always have fun filming because I always love talking to you guys, but some videos are more fun than others, admittedly. And the most recent one that I had a lot of fun filming was my subscriber story, where I talked about this woman named Ruby and how something paranormal is following her son, so on and so forth. In that story, she talked about being in the ER, and in the middle of the night, she saw like a man sitting alone in the lunchroom, and he just was really freaking creepy, and it just weirded her out, and she felt like she was being watched for the rest of the night. And I kind of found that that spooked me a lot, and I think the reason is because hospitals are kind of scary in general. Like, good things typically aren't happening at hospitals. It's always kind of a scary experience. I mean, babies are born, like people might be cured of cancer while going through, you know, the hospital over courses of radiation and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I think hospitals are kind of scary, right? And so I found like a bunch, and I'm telling you like 50 stories of real life nurses and doctors and people who have experienced things in hospitals. And so that's what today's video is going to be. But before we get into it, I know I've already talked for a little while, but I did want to say, if you guys are watching this in real time, like the day that it goes up, if you're watching this in a few months, it may not be as relevant, but I'm sorry that I gave up on Spring Fever Week exactly one day shy of it being over. I was going to upload my last video on Sunday, and I was having a really bad day. I had stuff filmed, I had stuff ready to go, and I just couldn't make myself edit. And I was just having like a really down time, and I don't really know why, like nothing was happening. I just wanted to say, for any of you who were expecting a Sunday video of this past week, I'm really sorry. I did upload a bikini haul on Wednesday though, so if you guys want to go watch that, you can. But anyways, now we're gonna get into the video. Sorry I'm super chatty. Every time I'm away from YouTube for like a minute, I feel like I kind of forget what to do with myself. But anyways, let's get into some of these terrifying, real, true hospital stories. This one is called The Vanishing Girl. I was a new nurse at our hospital and had only been working there for a couple of months. I had brought a patient of mine up to day surgery from the ER for an endoscopy, and they called back down and asked me to bring her family up because she only spoke Italian and not enough English, and they needed someone to consent for the procedure. After dropping them off, I walked past the waiting room to head back down to the hall to the elevators. I took the back way to get to the ER, and the hallways are all deserted. It used to be the pediatric wing of the hospital, but that is all shut down for years, and the rooms are just empty and full of broken equipment and beds and stuff. That sounds like something straight out of a freaking horror movie already. As I reached the old nurses station at the T-junction between the pediatric hallway in the hallway, that is such a mouthful, I've had to film that like 3 times, that goes to the elevators, I saw a little girl standing across from the nurses station further down the hall. She had big pigtails, was wearing a brown dress, white shoes, and holding a teddy bear. I thought perhaps she was a family member who had walked away from the day surgery waiting room. I was concerned that she would go into one of the rooms and get hurt or lost, so I said, "Hey little girl, what are you doing? You don't need to be over there, you're gonna get hurt." And I walked around the nursing station to go grab her hand and bring her back. And I kid you not, she vanished as I got about 15 feet away from her. Every hair on my body stood up straight, and I turned and ran like a bat out of heck down to the elevator. I pounded that button for what seemed like an eternity until the elevator got up to the floor. As I got back to the ER, I walked up to the nurse's desk, white as a sheet, and one of the older nurses looked at me and said, "Jesus, what is wrong with you?" I remember babbling like an idiot as I tried to tell them what happened. After listening to me for a moment or two, the nurse said, "Oh, you saw the little girl ghost. She's been around here for years." And I remember saying, "Well, thanks for telling me about it before this." Apparently the ghost has even been seen down in the ER, ducking in and out of patient rooms and peeking around curtains. My wife worked up on the 7th floor, and she said that one time on nights, a whole row of patient rooms started yelling about a little girl that was running around in the rooms. I guess she gets around. That is so freaky. Again, I think the reason that it's so scary is already hospitals are kind of like a dark and sort of scary place. So add into it like a ghost running around. I think think that also it's very probable that hospitals are haunted because so much tragedy often strikes there and so many people lose their lives in hospitals. Number 2 is called Like the Dead Are Leaving the Hospital. I already have chills. I work in intensive care in a small community hospital. We have a 9-bed unit that is completely closed off from the medical floor via 2 doorways. 2 nights ago, we were all sitting at our station charting, I'm not sure what that means, when we all heard footsteps coming down the hall. It's a completely open unit where you can see every room from everywhere. No one was in the unit with us. CT is below us and they close at 5 unless an emergency comes in. And we only have people on the 2nd floor. The 3rd is used as storage, so no one was above us. It happened 2 or 3 times. Then last night, cupboard doors kept opening and shutting in the 2 empty rooms. I finally asked my coworker what was going on and she told me that it usually happens after someone passes, especially if it was sudden. We had 2 codes last week that we lost, and I guess everyone has had weird stuff happening for a couple of days. That's really interesting. I wonder why it happens after someone passes away, or if it's just like really noisy spirits as they like pass in and out. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. This one is called The Man with the Striped Shirt. Not mine, but a fellow nurse of mine. We were talking about patients' hallucinations when he told me about this time that he was walking past an elderly patient's room. She had dementia and she was chatting up a storm with someone. He asked her who she was talking to and the woman replied, "That nice man in the black and white striped shirt." A while later, he went into another patient's with dementia's room, and that different patient asked where the man with the striped shirt had gone. Very interesting. I wonder again if it's like something with the brain, like, you know, starting to be more vulnerable that allows you to see certain things. Number 4 is Don't Let Them Take Me. The best I have heard is from a nurse who said that one night she was floated to oncology. Oh my God, I felt like actually like physically floated. Because I'm a maniac. At the hospital she used to work at. She was given a patient who was passing away and had been unconscious for several days. At one point during the night, the nurse went up into the room and the patient was on top of the bed, looked at her and said, "Don't let them take me." The nurse was freaked out and asked her who was going to take her, and she said that that black thing was up there and pointed up in the air. The patient died within minutes. Oh my God. Ooh. That one like really hit a nerve. That is petrifying. And the next one is again about an unexplained black shape. One night I was caring for a dying male patient. He was scared and I spent quite some time with him trying to calm and reassure him. Eventually he calmed and I left his bedside and went over to the nurse's station, which was about 15 feet away. As I sat down, I glanced over to him and there was a black shape standing over the bed looking down at the patient. I was terrified. And I'm sure it was something evil. Oh, I mean, that's really freaky. I would have been interested to know if like the patient had seen anything or if he passed soon after that. She did say that he was a dying patient, so it's really scary. This one is called In Two Places at Once. I used to work in a state institute for the developmentally, sorry, that's kind of a big tongue twister, disabled. We were temp relocated to another building for remodeling of our building. Anyway, I was working one night, 2nd shift. We had a locked Pika unit. I saw one of the residents walking down the hall. Very distinct gait and a very distinct yellow t-shirt with a happy face on it. I went into the ward to let staff know that they had an escapee. This was a serious situation because this particular resident, Larry, would ingest absolutely anything from clothing to pens to belts to a bird's head, literally anything. He was also very reluctant to go back to his home ward, hence why I didn't bring him back myself. He needed 2 escorts. When we got back into the hall, less than 15 seconds later, Larry was gone. We searched the entire building, outside, downstairs, all wards, and he was nowhere to be found. The whole search lasted more than 10 minutes because I had all extra staff looking for him. I was just about to call the house supervisor to let her know that we lost someone when out from the bathroom walks Larry with one of the staff. He'd been getting his bath in the bathroom for the last 30 minutes or so. Really freaky. I absolutely, without a doubt, saw Larry in the hallway. I never would have short-staffed the wards like I did if I hadn't seen him. Like I said, distinctive gait, look, clothing. I took a lot of razzing that night. They all thought I was crazy. Anyway, come to find out the next day, after the story goes around that I am crazy, Larry had an identical twin brother who died in that building 10 years prior. Oh my God. That is insane. Holy cow. My cousin for a while worked in a mental hospital, and she has a lot of like non-paranormal stories, but she did say that some kind of weird things would happen there sometimes. She's not really someone who believes in like the paranormal very much. Like she doesn't not believe it, she just hasn't had like a crazy experience, you know? But it is interesting that that happened. And I've heard some interesting stories about mental hospitals in the past. This one's called The Grandchild. We had a black girl about 10 in an ICU that was severely injured in a car accident. Lots of brain damage. She didn't die there, but was moved to another facility after weeks and weeks. After that, I know of 3 older black males in their 50s that, if they were even mildly sedated, would ask about the little black girl with a ribbon in her hair who was sitting on the foot of their beds. One guy said, "She asked me how I was doing, then she got up and walked away," while he was pointing towards the second floor window. He paused, a wide-eyed look came over his face. And then he said, "But I guess she really couldn't have left the room that way, huh?" Personally, I think she was taking care of grandfatherly figures. That's so sweet. That one gave me chills. This one is called The Dark Room. I worked in an ICU where a prisoner convicted of murder died in ICU 1, and nobody would put a patient in that room after that because the air was just too heavy and the room was too spooky and dark. It was so bad that the hospital eventually closed down the room and knocked out a wall to make it a separate entrance into the unit because nurses would refuse to put patients into the room even if it was the last available bed. They triage out a patient before they trust putting a patient in that bed. That is so bizarre. I would be interested to hear if there were any like specific reasons or if it just felt dark, because sometimes like situations just feel dark and wrong. This one's called Nurse Betty. I was working in the NICU when we had a threat of a tornado. Some nurses got pulled to a sister hospital in town to assist with the disaster plan. When all of this was over, one of the nurses returned with this story. She was assisting the nurses and giving some meds before pulling all into the hallways. Every PT, I don't know if that's short for part or if that's something else, she went to said they already had their meds from that nice nurse in the white uniform and hat. She realized after she left that it had been a while since the nurses worn a hat. That story revealed the urban legend of Nurse Betty. Story goes, she had an affair with a married MD, became pregnant, then allowed him to perform an abortion on her on the second floor OR room. She died and he went to jail. She never left the hospital and was seen frequently. The local newspaper would do an article on her every year around Halloween on her sightings. The hospital has been replaced with college dorms, and I wonder if any students have seen her. And the final one I'm gonna read of today is called Rockin Mary. We closed room 12 in our MICU because just about every patient there that has been there since Mary died complains of seeing a woman in there wearing a white habit rocking back and forth by their bedside. Apparently this nun never makes eye contact, just stares out the window, which happens to be on the patient left side over their head. This window overlooks the hospital cemetery where nuns that have died were buried. Mary was a nun that died of a car accident outside the hospital back in the 50s. She was only about 30 years old and all patients describe her as a young woman. We all thought it was the sundown syndrome. Anyway, since then, room 12 has become our storage unit where no one goes in by themselves unless it is absolutely critical. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and I hope you kind of agree with me that I think hospitals are a little bit eerie on their own. Then you factor in all of these like ghost stories and the fact that people have passed there. I don't know, I really like this. There are a lot more stories just on the one website that I found, so if you guys want me to read some more, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I love you guys very much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.